I'm on the deck of the ship that I'm on, and that's its sister ship next door. I was talking about that with the, let's call them Pommy couple that I'm lunching with, and I was trying to work out the difference between the two ships, why the one that I'm on, is about, I don't know, 100, 200 euros more expensive than that one next door. And the answer seems to be there are more cabins in the same space. They tried to tell me, not tried to, they were absolutely sure that it was a much larger ship and longer, gave me the figures and everything. And I couldn't believe it, but I reminded myself of my note to myself not to contradict in the face of such abject certainty. Anyway, I had seen them moored side by side in Paris when we left, and so I just bit my tongue. But here I am now, walking up and down both of them, and the bow is in the same place, and the stern is in the same place. So they're bloody same size, but you can see how the deck chairs are packed together like sardines on that one all the way through, whereas this one, they're much more spacious. So I think they're right in saying our vessel has cabins for 80 people, I think 50 cabins, whereas that one takes 120 people. So that's the difference. Well, they squash more people on that one, so they charge less. While we're side by side, I'm going to sneak a look through this one. I've come to look at your boat. Bonjour. Je suis dans là, and so I'm just having a look. Yeah. Well, it is raining here today. Happily, I'm a Boy Scout. Got my umbrella, have my lightweight waterproof to go over the top. It's not raining that badly. But the reason I'm videoing is I haven't gone on a tour around Rouen, guided, because I want to pick and choose where I go. And I've come the back way, and I'll tell you what, this place creeps up on you. This place creeps up on you. So, by happy accident, the back way to this place is on what used to be the main street, which is not the main street anymore, but it's which I'm walking up. And I'm only going to video 2 or 3 places. Oh, they started the bells for me too. I mean, you see one of these capital city cathedrals and you sort of have seen them all. But the work and the workmanship that goes into them. This is the old part of the town, obviously. And this is still the capital of Normandy. Check the intricacy of that stonework is just amazing. I'm not going to bother going inside. I'm making my way to the tower, which is the last remaining piece of where Joan d'Arc was tried. And sort of every corner you turn around, there's an old street you could explore. Which is why I haven't gone on a guided tour, because I just want to chase up a couple of things. Here we've got sort of the modern city mall down there, and then you come around the corner. And it goes on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. These do remind me of how I built my mud brick house. Had a woodman fill in the gaps with mud. That was the first one. Second one, the big one, I didn't use wood for an additional structure, I just built the walls. And I do like these places where you've got these big double doors. Don't very often see them open. I'm not going to go in, obviously it's private. That's great, isn't it? Well, that's the bells of the cathedral this morning. Never quite got what people like about church bells. And, you know, the bell ringers are quite skilled, obviously. I can take it or leave it. This is the tower, I hope. You gotta hand it to the Normans. They knew how to build castles. This apparently is, we can see where the wall actually was attached, I think. The Chateau de Rouen. Call it a chateau, but it was a castle. See the slits for the, well, crossbowmen to fire out of. They didn't have archers, did they? And it's the last tower that's left from the chateau where Joan of Arc was interrogated. At first in public in order to show how foolish she was. But when she was showing up the interrogators by giving them very sensible, clear answers and not losing her cool, they took it to private interrogation. A bit like local government, and government goes into private when they don't want to be embarrassed, do they? Here we are, visit the ruined donjon. The tower holds particular fame because Joan of Arc was led there after her capture to be subject to instruments of torture. Well, I've made it to this Museum of Joan d'Arc. There's a statue of it in the back, and it's in this magnificent building, ancient palace of some description, I'll find out. And it's 10 minutes before the tour, this video tour starts. I'm a little worried. It's 25 to 11 now, and my boat says be back on board by 12. So that'll be interesting timing, but just check it out.
La Grenade rouge. Le 23 février 1429, si je me souviens bien, elle surprenait, chantait, elle portait des habits d'homme, même pour être reçue par le roi. Elle avait beau se dire.
This is bloody good. It's about the best audio visual that I've ever seen. The place where it's at is great. The way it's presented is great. Right level of detail, and the up to the minute audio visual is just terrific. You think you're museumed out, but this is great.
Royaume de France, rendez à la Pucelle envoyée de par Dieu les clés de toutes les bonnes villes que vous avez prises et violées en France. Et donnez-nous réponse si vous voulez faire paix en la cité dans les... Attendez, c'est pas tout.
The top of this tower, inside the museum, right next to the cathedral. and I have to leave before it finishes, otherwise I won't make it back to the ship. Jeez. This is a very unusual set of stairs because I've actually come up clockwise. They always used to build them the other way around, so the defender didn't have the centre pillar on their right-hand side. So I imagine there's a story that the captain of this castle was probably a left-hander. I always imagine the people building this, the amount of manpower and the skill, of course. I'm leaving it on because it does go on. It's a very big spiral staircase. Well, that was well worth the €10. Well, I'm back on board. Got back here about 7 minutes to 12, and the desired time was 12 noon. Just announced departing at 12:30. So I've been in my cabin, it's the first day it rained, so I took my umbrella and raincoat cover, and all good. And it was just an amazing piece of luck. The tower and the dungeon was shut, otherwise I would have gone in there on a self-tour, and then I would have missed the start of the audio visuals in the Musee de Joan D'arc, which was really brilliant, really brilliant. I haven't edited the video yet, but I know a lot of it was out of focus because the screens were at different distances, and this camera is a really good camera. It's like got 3 different lenses on the back and can focus in well, and it's so good that I don't know how to use it. Otherwise I could have done a manual focus. But I was also enjoying the audio visual, and so often I find that if you're videoing something, you don't enjoy the moment. So I basically switched off the video and enjoyed the moment and the sheer architecture of the building in which it was. As it happened, I decided to leave before the end of it because I didn't want to get late back to the boat. That just annoys people. They tell you be here at 12, be here at 12. The engine started at like 12:05, just this second as I'm speaking. So that was really good. I would have liked another half day here in Rouen, to be honest, rather than just the half day. I timed it so that I'd be at that Tower Museum when it was supposed to open at 10 o'clock, and I was about 10:10, but it was shut. Such is life. But like I say, what I missed out there more than made up for in that audio visual. And the only place I actually didn't get to see was the Burning Square. Now, I might have passed through it, but I was walking quickly and I didn't see any signs on the side where I was. But as I say, another couple of hours here would have suited me nicely. Going to have some lunch now, and they've actually booked me in to play clarinet at 2:30. I was thinking about backing out on that, but after a few drinks over lunch, I'll probably be okay with it. Those gold lions are those 2 gold lions are the coat of arms of Normandy. And one thing that's occurred to me since I've been here in the last couple of days is that, well, Jersey, Channel Islands in English, Les Îles de Normandie, or the Islands of Normandy in French, for France. And they were part of the Duchy of Normandy. And so I've got to imagine there's a story because the coat of arms of Jersey is actually 3 of those lines, one under the other. And so obviously the Ile de Normandy once upon a time had 2 lines, and they must have added another, and I'm going to guess that's for the English crown part of it, because it's a separate territory of England with its own coinage and so forth. But it's an interesting connection for me, at least. And we were double moored with our sister ship, bow to bow, stern to stern, I say, to make my point that they're the same length. And we're off. It's funny, the Ile de Paris, on which the Notre Dame Cathedral is sort of, I thought of that, ignorant obviously, as an unusual occurrence, but there are islands quite often in the middle of the Seine. This is one here on our right where the river splits. And I went for a run this morning. I was able to run along the river banks instead of around the top deck. And there's some really ancient buildings on this island in the middle of the river where the Seine splits in 2 and goes both ways. That's a modern government one. And then, modern government one. And in front of the modern government one are the older if I had a little longer, you see, we're still in Rouen. That's where I would have gone for a nice view. And there are churches everywhere, which, although I'm a bit bored of them, they're quite nice. And Rouen itself is a quite nice city, I think, with the mixture of the old and new. It's the capital of Normandy. And I imagine that's because the Viking Rollo, who was given or granted the Duchy of Normandy by the French king, set up his city here because it was his duty to make sure that no other Vikings got up the river as far as Paris ever again. Obviously, we all know that story. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together to work out why it's where it is and why it's the capital of Normandy. And so we're coming to the end of this island now. And I was going to call it the confluence of the Seine, but it's not the confluence, it's the split, because we're actually going upstream, so it's where the Seine splits into 2 to go each side of the island. We're getting back to the full width. I've had 1.5 beers now, I can't be bothered standing up to get better shots. But you can see where the tip of the island has been used for the centre of that bridge. Just commenting on those escargot from last night. I mean, all my life I've wanted to eat escargot. When I lived in Jersey, we had a Spaniard who lived next door. No, it's the Spaniards came after the French. We had a Frenchman. And he used to gather the snails in the backyard and ask my dad if he could gather the snails from our veggie patch. And we were young Englishmen at those days and absolutely abhorred the notion of eating snails out of the garden. But of course it's part of international cuisine. But I tell you what, it's rubbish. I say that on the basis of one meal, but everything else that this chef has prepared has been perfect. And so I'm going to imagine that the escargot that were served were a perfect example of how to cook them. And they were just extremely tasty, at least the sauce was. But the item itself was not worth having. So I'm having a what the fuck am I doing moment. I've just been announced at lunchtime by the concierge and other people that Monsieur Bolton, the professional clarinet player from Australia, is going to play. And I got about 15 minutes before I start. And it's that adrenaline, fear, haven't even got a set ready, haven't changed. Life's a bitch, you just get used to it and then you die. Got to get ready. Check out that place. Its own little boathouse as well. Another rather good day, filling in time until I die. I've been planting the seeds since I've been on this boat for permission to play inside in the warm, maybe to an audience. So I played on the roof a night or two. In fact, I got stopped last night about 10:30. The concierge said, oh, there's a couple of ladies, they want to go to sleep. So I was very polite, nice. But an English couple who I've been sitting with sort of promoted the idea. Anyway, I played today for half an hour, which was extended on request of the crew in charge, on request of the passengers, for another 15 minutes, and a further encore, at which I stopped. So it's quite good. I said, no, I'm going to stop now. And I was telling people I've made friends with, prefer to stop while everybody wants more, let them have that memory, rather than me carry on until they've had enough, which can often be too much. And on top of the Joan d'Arc Museum, which is bloody brilliant, and I'll edit that either tonight or tomorrow on the train, see how we go. And right now it is 4:30 in the afternoon, so I'm not going to have an afternoon nap before dinner, otherwise I'll wake up and feel like rubbish. I've switched to a light beer so I can just keep ticking over. The conjurer here is doing his prestidigitation, and he's actually very good, apart from the fact he's not doing it in the centre of the room where everybody can see. But he did it at that table a couple of nights ago, and I gave him a tip, so I know he's good, and it doesn't matter anyway. So having a good day.